Hello and welcome to Joyride with your hosts, the Metaphysical Moms, Tiffany and Kerry. Joyride takes you on a spin through all things spiritual and soulful, including holistic healing, energy work, and personal development. Now, here are your hosts, Tiffany and Kerry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kerry. How are you?
I'm good. I was just sitting there thinking, I need to ground. I'm way up here.
Ground down. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on another Joyride. This is show number 90.
90.
Yes, it is March 27th, 2018, here in Houston, Texas this morning. Hopefully, everybody's having a wonderful week. How are you?
I'm good. Are you talking to me or them?
Everybody. Hi.
Everybody.
How are you?
Okay, so this morning I pulled something swimming. Who does that? You're supposed to swim.
Entered swimming.
I know. I think it's just the creaky bones. So we're having to work the creeks out.
We're jumping right into today's show because it's another show that we are so excited about, and this one has been a long time coming.
Yes, it is, and I am this couple. They are my soul family, and I've been nervous about having them on for some reason. It's kind of like having dad on. Not really. He's not old enough by far to be my dad, but it is, it's just sort of nervous. So I'm going to let you do the intro.
Okay, so without further ado, we are welcoming today to the Joyride Show somebody who has been a huge inspiration to my life, and his lovely wife, Christine and Ainslie MacLeod, are joining us. They are joining us via Facebook Live, via Skype. So if you're joining us on Facebook Live, you'll see them later when you hop over to YouTube. But we are so happy to welcome you guys to the Joyride Show. Thank you for being here.
So early.
We are delighted to be here.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Ooh. Well.
And we are soul family, by the way.
You think so?
It's a big family, but
Been confirmed.
yeah, we're part of this extended soul family.
You know, I knew that there was a time where I just got really, really busy and I wasn't able to be as active and involved in the group as I once was, and that I sent them a note, and it was just like going home, and it was, do I get out of the group? Do I not? And it's like, I can't get out of the group. They're
That's
my family.
You can't quit family.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, we're your people.
There's always a table or a chair at the table. Yep.
Thank you. That's well said. I love that.
Well, I'm going to introduce you, Ainslie, a little bit from your bio. I know that you, in your book, which has been a huge favorite of mine, The Instruction by Ainslie MacLeod, Living the Life Your Soul Intended. This was the first one that I picked up. And in your book, you describe being a very reluctant psychic. In the first 40-something years of your life, you were an atheist. You were not interested, even though you'd been told many times that you had these gifts. You were not interested and sort of fumbled through life and purpose and relationships and kind of had a rough go of it, I think you said.
Yeah, it was kind of Mr. Magoo, just blundering through life. It's amazing that I made it, So I was, quite clueless. I mean, that was that was partly why I wrote about my story at the beginning of the instruction, is to really make the point that I'm not coming from some elevated place with this. I'm just another bozo on the bus.
Bozo on the bus.
Made the same kind of mistakes that everybody does, and so much of it is really about not knowing who you are and why you're here. So that's really my big thing, is to help people figure out the answer to the question.
Well, and
questions.
The questions, right? And in your book, you go on to describe how when you finally did start to focus on your gifts, boy, your family and your guide, your deceased spirit guides, and everybody showed up for you in a big way.
Yeah.
And started giving you the instructions on how to teach people this. I'm going to quote you from your book. When I agreed to devote the rest of my life to being a psychic and exploring the soul, I was offered, in return, a key to the soul world. Oh. It has helped me to access everything from the reasons we have an appendix to why we go to war, but most of all, it's helped me understand what each of us is doing here. And that's what your purpose is. You and Christine have created the Soul World Lounge, and all your books and videos and one-on-one sessions to really help each person understand, gosh, why we're here, what we're up to, what our soul's purpose is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the big questions.
But I have to say, though, that I know my husband is not really on the same path, it would never occur to him to go to seek out a psychic. So there must have been a piece of you somewhere that knew that this might actually happen.
Oh yeah, my soul. You know,
that big piece.
It was a conscious mind that was just obstinate, and I was just really set in my ways. And I was an atheist. I had no time for this kind of thing. But psychics turned up all over the place. You know, a couple of times where they'd come up to me in public and introduce themselves, tell me I was psychic and I should be doing it. And I'd go and see this little old lady in London. She every time I went to see her, she would read my palm and she'd go, "Oh, you're psychic," and I'd go, "Well, if I was psychic, I wouldn't be paying you for a reading. I'd be doing it myself." And I was just, I don't know, too cynical or something. But everything just changed. I mean, it was just really everything turned around. Particularly when I had a visit from my deceased uncle. It was in a bookstore in Hawaii, and he was just there for a moment. He just sort of turned up with a message, and it was to work together. But that's what really put me on the path. It was like, after that, it was so undeniable that there was just no question. And then I just tried talking to spirit guides, and you feel a bit weird the first time you do it. You're sitting there talking, you think to yourself, and I was just amazed that I could get answers, and answers to things I couldn't possibly have knowledge of, and words would come up that I'd never heard before, but I could check them out. So very quickly I got validation of the ability, and certainly validation that was what I should be doing with my life. I still had the reluctance because, telling people you're a psychic, like that was a bit weird, So, it's like telling the family, well, I'm a psychic now.
I'm glad you got over that.
Career change, I know. Yeah, but that is, I know Tiff and I did a talk, and I look out into this audience, and I see moms from our school. And it's like, oh no. So it's like, okay, we're just going to rip it off. Guess what? I see dead folks, and I mean, you just have to go out there, and then it gets easier, I think, well, obviously with you. So how long ago was that? Oh,
that was probably about 20 years ago.
Wow. And look at what all you've done in those 20 years. That's incredible.
I know, it's exciting.
But it also gives me a lot of, I won't say hope, that you found your purpose like in your 40s. I'm like, okay, it's not too late.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
I was a late bloomer, but you're never too late. I work with people who are in their 80s sometimes and still looking for purpose and finding it.
Wow.
And it's never too late. There is a belief some people have that they've missed the boat, but really it'd be very, very rarely that you can't recalibrate or find some way to bring meaning into your life or be doing the kind of things that you're meant to do.
Well, and I sort of think that I've always had this idea, because both with my mom and my dad, it's like they had to come together to work first, and they had kids, and they had these different things they had to go through, and then they moved on to where they are now, and they're both so happy and so full. And so I do think that there is this part of our lives that it's kind of trickier and tough, and we live it for everybody else and the quote-unquote supposed to, and then we get to walk into, hopefully we step into who we are and who we came to be. And that's I mean, okay, so your quiz online, which I hope everybody hopped onto that and took it, because it's so cool. Did you come up with that? Obviously you did, but how did you come up with that? I mean,
well, that's why I have spirit guides.
Yeah.
I have friends on the other side who in fact, the title of the first book, The Instruction, was the name that they gave to the method that I use, because it's actually a system, and Christine will confirm this, I am certainly not the most organized person or someone you could think of as teaching a system, but I'm always reminded of what my grandfather used to say. He would look at me and say, you know, one day you'll make a damn fine shepherd. All you'll need is an intelligent dog. My feeling is I have intelligent dogs on the other side. So, you know, a really big...
He's not referring to me.
I was going to say, Christine, that's not you.
No,
I like to be very
guides.
clear on that.
That's what I was thinking.
But it is great to have
But it's really just... Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying you have a wonderful partner with your wife as a business partner and putting your two minds and your two strengths together. You said you manifested Christine as your soulmate. You guys manifested each other. I think you compete over who manifested
She would definitely,
you.
absolutely, she would definitely argue that, what do you think? It was 50-50. You know?
Well, you know, yeah. But,
Co-created
you know, when
each other.
when I met him, that was one of the things that I noticed was he's got this incredible gift. He has this... you know, amazing ability to help people identify who they are and why they're here, right? So they can have their own kind of transformation and awakening. And I was watching him going, you know, if he did that differently with the business, not the work that he does, but the structure, the organization of it, you know, if we did that, I could help. And so it just kind of went from there.
And that's something that a lot of times couples come together to do,
Yep.
is to create something larger.
Yeah.
Something, you know, they each bring something to the table, which is why you get so many duos like you guys, and you know, whether it's you know, in music, there's an awful lot of duos and all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, that you inspire something in the other.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I see with you two. You are so artistic. You know, I've always felt, Ainslie, your artistic soul, and it's gentle, kind of shy, very sweet. And Christine, you're the gatekeeper. I mean, you're sort of the ball buster, but in a beautiful way, in a strong, respectful way. And it is. I told Tiff that I got to spend a time around, not with. What's his name?
Who?
Redford.
Robert Redford.
Redford and his
Oh,
wife.
wow.
And y'all reminded me of them because
Aw.
she was very elegant. She was very graceful, but you could tell, you know, don't mess. Like she was kind of the buffer. She had his back, I guess, and
Sure.
and it was
Sure,
beautiful
right.
to watch because you could just see how they depended on each other, and it was really cool. So that's what you guys remind me of. So the first,
that's
Well, I think we do have that,
Yeah.
and you know, I feel it took us, you know, a long time to meet each other. We met 5 years ago, and you know, the time was right for it, but it was transformational,
Yeah.
and you know, again, you're never too late.
You should write a book about it. Transformation.
Really, oh, what a beautiful segue.
what a beautiful segue. Yeah, I think I met you guys around 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was doing a job out in your neck of the woods, and it happened to come together that you had a workshop, and so it was just so cool because I'd listened to Christine's voice so many times, and it's like, oh, it's so cool to see you in person. You know?
It was delightful to see you, see your name on the sign-in sheet, and go, wait a minute, we know
Carrie's
her.
in town.
I think I know this person.
So you guys are up in the Pacific Northwest, but online
Yeah.
people can find you at AinslieMacLeod.com, and I'm going to spell that because it's a very good
It's a very
Scottish name.
name.
Yes.
AINSLIEMACLEOD.com. And like you said, Kerry, people can jump on and take that soul type quiz. And that was one of the first things on my journey that really made sense to me is the soul age, the soul type,
Yes.
the soul challenges and strengths, the soul mission, and that you take this sort of quiz, this inventory of your life, and it pretty quickly comes out, and it makes so much sense. And then it's given me a real place to put other people who are very different from me, not as better or worse or wrong or bad, but just, oh, they're a young soul, or they're a leader, or a whatever. It made so much sense. So it really helped me kind of identify where my family members were in that group. And then I had a personal reading with you, Ainslie, and you validated. I got about 95% right on my quiz versus what your guides told me I was. So it was very close. I'd misinterpreted
That's
something.
really close, yeah.
And Kerry and I are almost identical when we do our soul types and all of our primary influences, we're almost identical. So we haven't been opposites attract. We've been almost like yin and yang.
yin and yin. Well, and it works. It is. I'm a hunter, which I feel that. I mean, I feel that part, and I think you're more of a healer. Mm-hmm. And so that was
caregiver.
Caregiver. Yeah, I'm
I
not
think
a caregiver.
caregiver's strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the leader or the hunter type. I'm more the caregiver, thinker, performer, creator, spiritualist. And you were saying that about 90% of the people that come to you are spiritualists. They're people who this is a primary influence in their life. And
but one of the signs of having that spiritualist in you, it's one of the 10 soul types, but it's wanting to see improvement, whether it's for yourself or for other people. Mm-hmm. You want to see a better you, better world. So, of course, the people I talk to are those who are on the path and wanting to figure themselves out. So they're the kind of people who would read self-help spiritual books and
go to workshops.
And or have
Listen to our
readings
show.
with somebody like me.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's and I think you're starting, you said, to move. You'll still work with folks one-on-one, but you're really wanting to move more into teaching and exploring and explaining.
Yeah.
And creating community.
Yes.
It's really, that's a big part of it. Do you want to talk about that? Because
Sure, yeah. Well, Ainslie Spirit Guides, probably a year or two into when we met, and clearly we were supposed to meet for a lot of reasons, and one of them is to work together and to create this opportunity for people to really step into who their soul wanted them to be for this lifetime. And the spirit guides really, Ainslie, he's been doing this for a long time, and it's hard work, talking to the other side. Yeah. And it can be exhausting, and it's really empowering for people, but it's one-on-one, and we really, the guys wanted to take this into a much bigger, scope. And so with their help, we created this membership program, the Soul World, and really we're taking what Ainslie's doing on more of a mass level. Through monthly classes. Every month has a theme. I think this month is all about kindred spirits and soulmates and finding your people.
And here
Perfect timing.
And I have to say,
yeah.
the group is phenomenal. I mean, I had a guest, or one of the Soul family, fly in. She was here for a different, to take a Feng Shui class, but she looked me up and we hooked up and we had dinner, and that is the way you feel in this group. It's not, ooh, can I be myself? I mean, you'll pose a question or a thought for the day, and everybody's like, brrr, and everybody responds, and it's so respectful and kind, and you can just completely be yourself. And
absolutely,
and it's not even that it's accepted; it's loved, and you teach, and everybody kind of jumps in and supports, and so I highly recommend this group.
It's really sweet. I get emails every day from people saying, I don't have any place like this where I can totally be myself. If we're lucky, we've got a friend or two or a small little group of people who get us and who we can be ourselves with. But for a lot of these people, they're in a sea of conservative, and there's nobody that they can talk to, even their spouse. So they come in here and they talk about something that if they were to mention in their community, God, who knows what would happen, But they can just be themselves. And, speaking of having each other's backs, that's what it's like. You go in there and you feel like if you're having a bad day, sometimes people will come in and say, I just need to be reminded that I matter, or that I'm important, or, that you like me. And everybody just comes on and gives them the love, It's really sweet. It's sweet for us. Yeah.
So this weekend, Charles and I were at a
gala.
Yeah, thank you. So, and we were dancing, and I'm looking around. Lovely, everybody's lovely, but from the vibe, it's kind of not my people, and I realize I don't know. This is my everyday. Is this now? And they played "We Are
Family."
Yeah, and I'm like, I need my sisters here, and it just is that. Yeah, I don't know. The people are so hungry. They're just so yearning to go home. And so what you guys have is sort of home on earth. And that just occurred to me. I have chills. That's just a beautiful thing. So, and I love the way it's set up, because you do. I mean, you do have access to you, but and you can ask questions, but well, you tell us about that. So what is a monthly, or like, how does this work? mean, I don't mean to oversell it. It's just such a cool thing.
Sure. Well, we start every month with a theme, and I pick up that from the spirit guides. So it'll be something they want to explore. Sometimes it's directly related to the instruction. Other times it might be quite broad, like karma, and what that's all about. Or maybe it's why you chose your parents,
or so your soul, your human and animal souls. We did a whole month exploring our connection to animals, which was fascinating.
Oh,
really cool. Yeah.
You know, I used to wonder, you know, what if we run out of topics to discuss, and the spirit guides, you know, falling over, laughing on the other side. You know, this is an exploration without any end. You know, there's just so much, always so much to learn. So we start with the theme, and then the spirit guides have a lot of observations. So I pose questions in our forum from the spirit guides, really to inspire thinking and questions. So we do a class on the subject, and then usually about halfway through the month we have a past life regression, and this is where we go back with the spirit guides will take us each back into a past life to find out what happened. And sometimes it's traumatic because you're looking for the hard stuff that you've had to deal with so that you can initiate healing. And often the healing happens just the moment you hear about a past life, you find out what happened. And then we end the month with a Q&A session. So there's always something going on. And, you know, plus the lounge itself, which is the heart of the community, is open 24/7, and well, we have
people all over the world.
Yeah, so there's always somebody awake. If you have a question or just want to talk.
And it's all online, and it's month to month. You can come join us anytime. You can leave anytime. You know, we always want people to stay, but you know, people have come and gone, and I've had people that have come and gone 3 times and said, I keep thinking I'm going to go elsewhere and try something else, but I always come back here. It's for the learning. It's also hugely for the community.
it is.
And I mentioned that to you too when we spoke the other day. It's the Ainslie Spirit Guides calls this coming together. They call it a reunion of soulmates. And there are people in membership who have shared past lifetimes together. Some of them pretty significant ones. Yeah, you know, these are people who their spirit guides have been pushing them to meet, and this is where they met. I mean, we're like matchmakers for the soul, you know?
Yeah.
You're like the hub.
So,
I just saw like a hub with a wheel and with
totally.
little spokes.
Yep, exactly.
And everybody comes
And
in.
Can I back up and
Absolutely.
ask your monthly meditation? So everybody in their own space is doing a regression. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so everybody's
Right.
doing a regression that you're leading, and you can regress back through go back through a past life that you've had. And I'm sure most people who are watching our show are totally into past lives and understand how regression therapy can help you just by witnessing it or relieving the trauma of it and realizing it's not happening to you anymore. You can alleviate symptoms or relationship problems or phobias and things that are happening in this life. And that it's a huge benefit. It's this therapy to go back and witness. It's interesting and it's kind of curious, you know, just to see what I've been up to in other incarnations, but it has such a benefit for this life.
Absolutely.
Oh, I mean, it happens all the time. In my one-on-one sessions, I just tell people about past lives. I'm too impatient to do regressions all the time. I don't mind doing them once a month or at live events, but to be doing that every day, it's just like, because I'm getting the stuff really quickly from the spirit guides. I'm talking to them every day, so you know I've got an easy connection with the other side. So when I first started doing this, and I'd have somebody sitting there going, "Oh, I think I see a tree," I'd be going, "Oh God, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life." So
Let me just tell you what you're seeing.
All right, like here's what it's all about, you know. And what I found was that then people would call me the next day and they'd go, "Oh my God, you know, this pain I've been carrying around for all my life, it's gone," or, you know, so in the regression, it's the same principle, and the difference is that I take everybody through that. But people call up immediately after.
Yeah, we open the phone lines after so they can process.
And we had that, you know, one time when somebody calls up and they said, "Oh, man dancing with a woman in a ballroom, and the next caller goes, I was a woman
dancing with a man in a ballroom, and the spirit guides validated that was a shared past life. So then now they can go and connect together, right?
Go
and
dancing.
Process their experience. Well, to go dancing, yeah, absolutely, right. And process their experience and why did their guides bring them to that life? There was some healing for them to do.
Yeah.
You know, we have so much baggage in this lifetime, right? From things that we've experienced in this lifetime, childhood, relationships, losing everything in a fire, whatever. Imagine you've had hundreds of past lifetimes, and for most of us, we'll be old souls, otherwise we wouldn't be here talking to each other, right?
Right.
And so we have all this baggage from past lifetimes. So the idea is that Ainslie's helping people to let go of that past lifetime baggage so you can really be present now and show up and be much more whole and not so broken.
Yeah, because every phobia is a past life issue. Mm-hmm. Every one. And that's why they're irrational. But it's something's triggering the memory. So some event will cause your soul to go back to the past. And it can happen in a nanosecond. That your soul scans the past, finds something traumatic, and freaks out. So it's great to be able to heal phobias, but fears of all kinds, limiting beliefs, chronic pains, stuttering. And there's all sorts of stuff that just, it will disappear or dissipate, sometimes immediately. I mean, I've literally had people with chronic pain that's disappeared from the moment that the soul is reminded that it's a past life issue. Beheading always shows up as neck and shoulder pain. So I was working with somebody who'd been beheaded, and she was telling me, 20 years of chronic pain. And it lifted, never came back. She would turn up at my events and sort of,
Like, look,
you know, like,
I still have my head.
Look, I still have my head.
Look, yeah.
Well, you know, can I tell the story? Okay, so if you listen to you're like, what story? But you're psychic, you know what I'm about to say.
Absolutely.
So the first few shows, if you go back and listen, they're horrifying. I mean, they are horrifying. I couldn't talk. And after the first show, I sat at Tiff's house, and she's like, we're just going to tap. I mean, I am crying snot. I mean, I'm a horrible crier.
Because of your stutter.
Because of my stutter. I'm like, I can't do this. I have so much to say, but it's like I hit a wall every time, and it just doesn't come out. And then I talk around my words, and it comes out like I'm a moron, and it just doesn't work. And so Ainslie and I spoke, and I mean, you were like therapy condensed down to, you know, an hour, and you're like, oh, it's right here. I see it. It's right here. And you apparently, I like fabric. I still do. And I'd stolen something, and they clubbed my foot, and you said your left foot has something, like there's something wrong, not wrong, but you have pain in your left foot. I do. And you said, yeah, they clubbed your foot. And I love the way you say it, because you're like, yeah, you know, you picked a daisy, you know, they clubbed your foot. And then I did something else, and they took me out into the middle of this square, and they jeered and taunted and killed me. And so the way you say it is so phenomenal, because it's like your soul, it's like one long book, and each life is a chapter. So your soul doesn't really, at least this is the way I took it. And I know you just explained this, but it doesn't compartmentalize it into that space. And I still do every now and then. I still, when I get excited, it's like the energy kind of ties up my tongue. But your soul basically says, last time you did this, you got yourself killed, sit down. And so then I couldn't speak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. But the next day I went in, it was great. I mean, everything flowed the way I wanted it to. And Tiff looked at me and she was like, what was that? You know, how did that happen? It's like, I had a session with Ainsley last night. And you're right. It just cleared it up for the most part. I'll probably always have it because I apparently like part of it. It's part of who I am. But it's, And I can tell you, and I won't bore you guys, and I know you already know these stories, but every time you and I have spoken, something will happen the next day that validates it. The names, I'll meet somebody with the exact name or from the exact obscure town that I was from that you said I was from. It's really cool. So for those proofers that need the proof, it's there. So
and I often say, you know, because people have asked me, do I have to believe in this? And I joke, well, it's probably more important that I believe in it, but no, you don't, because, well, if you read some of my blog posts, I've used a lot of stories in there from people's children. So I'm working with mom, and they wonder, what's going on with my kid? They're having all these issues, and we just go into past life, find out what happened. And they can tell the child, depending on the age, you can do it as a bedtime story and just, or even say, if they're a bit older, you could say, you might think this is crazy, but this friend of mine told me that this happened to you, as long as you can get through to the soul. There was one mother who told a child a story, it's a bedtime story, and she didn't say this happened to you in a past life. But a couple of weeks later, the kid says, remember that story you told me about a man who did such and such? That was me, wasn't it? And the soul is getting it. And the soul just needs to be reminded that was then, this is now. Because if you think of it, we have lots of lives. If you're an old soul, you might be on life 115. But for your soul, it's life number 1, because it doesn't die. So, although we could perceive it as, life, death, and it is in terms of the body and the conscious mind, but the soul continues throughout, so it has a problem separating one life from the others. It does tend to, that the lives that I look at tend to be more recent. They're usually within the last 1,000 years, and probably most of them within the last 500. Things do seem to be resolved. If you go back far enough, it's probably been worked through in some sort of way. But it's fascinating because it's like peeling away an onion. Like you think, oh, well, I got rid of that issue. But it's amazing. I mean, we're all comprised of all this past life experience. So once you start getting into it, like, wow, you can just find that it affects every single thing about you. I mean, there's really nothing about you that isn't past life related. From the people you hang out with, the lessons you're learning, the experiences, location.
The clothes you like to wear, the foods you like to eat.
Your personality.
Music.
Your entire personality. This is when I talk about soul types. You learn to be who you are through past life experiences, through being that person. We were talking about spiritualists. They learn to be spiritualists through being priests or healers, shamans, a medicine person, acupuncturists. So when you start going back through the past lives, you'll see the healing things showing up all the time, or the contemplative lives. And that's how you learn to be this more spiritually connected person.
It's pretty cool.
It is so cool. And for some reason that triggered this. So when you have a younger soul, did they decide to come in, because you talk about soul 1 to soul 10, basically, and all the lives in between. Yes.
Yeah,
kind of a maturity level. It's not better or worse.
No. It's just
right.
like saying
sort of an evolution.
Being 5 years old is bad.
Yep.
I mean, it's not. It is. But like a 5, you still really buy into the 3D, and you want the power, and you want the the money and the cars and all of that. So are those souls, are they just slower, or did they come, have they been somewhere else? Where were they, and why are they 5s versus a 10?
It's really a question of when you started the journey, because
on the physical plane.
On the physical plane. You're coming in from out there somewhere. If you're an old soul now, you've probably been on the planet for about 5, 6, 7,000 years. Going back and forth, and that's roughly how long it would take to get through 110 to 120 lifetimes, which would be about average. It depends on how you count it, of course, because there's so much infant mortality in past lives. So, generally you wouldn't consider it a life if you died under the age of 2, perhaps. But once you start accumulating experience, even if you did die in childhood, it could still be considered an entire lifetime, and then would show up in future lives. But for a young soul, they might only have been coming here for 500 years or 1,000 years. They haven't had the experience that the old souls have had. And it does tend to show up at the ballot box. That, old souls, with all that extra experience, they tend to be more progressive, more concerned about things like the environment and other people's welfare, because the journey is really taking the soul from a place of me to we, or teaching about love, really. It's going from a place of fear to love.
So
you'd have to say that talking about old souls and young souls, before I met Ainslie, now I've always been a very deeply spiritual person. I was raised in a pretty conservative religious environment, but I was always looking for something. I always knew there was something out there. I didn't know what it was, but it was not what I was being told, right? That wasn't my truth, and I knew that. And then I explored, my whole lifetime, explored all sorts of cool esoteric, metaphysical stuff. And then as I got older, life, hard stuff, started getting a little cynical and maybe getting a little bit skeptical. I worked with engineers, so, they were mostly all very, very skeptical. And so then I met Ainslie, but before I did, I couldn't figure out why some people were the way they were. Why were some people so filled with hate about anything that was different from them, or rage, or little small-minded? It was really hard. And I actually had a theory that maybe there was subsets of the human species because I couldn't figure out why people were the way they were. How could some people seem to be so altruistic and other people were so selfish and mean, in a hurtful way? And then I met Ainslie and introduced me to the concept of soul ages, and it was like, of
that
course.
makes sense.
Yes.
It
Like a
all
teenager.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. A little kid isn't going to understand something, the nuances of something, the way someone who's been on this earth for 70 years will,
Yeah.
So it was so empowering for me, and it really helped me to have some compassion for people.
Right.
It's still hard. It's not easy, and sometimes we have our little, driving me nuts. But it really helps when you understand that they just don't have the experience.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Their priorities are different.
And
yeah.
Ainslie gave us in our personal reading, some great insight to our children's soul type and missions and challenges, and the stories. Like, I know one of your children was in the Holocaust and that whole Nazi Germany, and one of my children, he was an older member of a tribe, probably up in Canada, and kind of got abandoned and died by exposure, and he had to eat berries to survive. And to this day, he will pick every little berry out of his cereal. He doesn't like to be alone, and so I've told him,
Guess what?
Well, I've talked to Ainslie, and this was a past life, and so, you're not going to get left behind, and the berries are safe to eat. So if he goes to a family's house and it's like blueberry pancakes, he's like, oh, I don't eat those because I died in a past life having to live on those.
Oh,
And I'm
that's
like,
so adorable. That's great. Yeah.
So he has an
Spread the
understanding,
news.
but he's kind of
Yeah.
spreading the news. But you were on Oprah's Soul series and Dr. Oz. Some very broad platforms talking about this, and I love that it was so widely accepted and celebrated.
Right.
That these concepts were really, encouraged and put out there. So I think that was amazing.
They make sense.
Yeah.
They resonate.
You're changing
Absolutely.
the language in
Sure.
our head and the understanding of our soul in a big
Yeah.
way.
I think people are generally becoming much more open to this kind of thing, thanks to people like Oprah and Dr. Oz. And there's more literature out there now, more spiritual literature, and that helps. Yeah, we live in maybe a slightly more enlightened time in some ways.
Yeah.
I know it's hard. You look at the news and think, my God, what's happening? But there are signs of this transformation and spiritual growth going on everywhere.
The fact that we're having this conversation and you have a radio show to talk about this, and that you have all these listeners, that's a good indicator of that the shift is happening.
It is.
Yeah.
We are making huge progress. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. In your second book, The Transformation, you had talked about your guide suggests that we're standing on the brink of the greatest leap in human consciousness in 55,000 years. And for each of us to take an active part in the shift, you have to learn how to release those fears that we've accumulated over many lifetimes. So can you talk about that shift, that great leap of consciousness that we're stepping into?
Well, I think this is, we live in exciting times. interesting times. And when you get a shift of consciousness, and it hasn't happened on this planet for 55,000 years, there's a reaction, and you can see it now. There's a lot of fear amongst younger souls who don't quite understand what's going on, and it's been happening over, a generation or so, and will continue to happen. But it is picking up speed, and the shift in consciousness is taking us to like a higher level of awareness, and that's where a lot of people are becoming aware, for example, that religion and spirituality are not the same thing. It's not to say you can't have both, but they're not the same. And a lot of people are looking for something that gives them more of a sense of personal meaning, the old souls particularly. Why am I here? What am I doing? And that sort of need for greater meaning is going to increase with the transformation as we go through this. And it will, what's it, like a rising tide, it's going to lift all the boats, even the young souls, the most resistant ones, because of what's happening. You look at what's happening in Florida with those kids after the shooting recently, and these are these old soul kids who are in here to make a difference. And we hear about indigo children and terms like that. These are just older souls, but with a greater sense of connection and coming in with inner life plans. It's all set up so they'll make a bigger difference. It's a bit of a rescue mission. It's one of the ways you can look at it.
That's what I've heard, that they come in, that there was like a call that went out. And I wanted to ask you about that. And I know it's maybe going backwards just a tiny bit, but the whole thing with folks that maybe came in and have to abide by the laws that are put in place here, but they came in to help speed it up. Now, do you ever come across that, folks that are not from here or not part of the system, wanderers, starseed, whatever you want to call them? Do you ever come across that?
I don't come across it in my work, to be honest. It seems that so far, nothing would surprise me. Doing what I do, I was saying before, I used to be an atheist. I thought this is just the way the world is, and now I'm talking to spirit guides on a daily basis. So, I'm really open to anything if there's evidence there. I just haven't seen it yet. I haven't had anyone that I worked with who's from another galaxy or whatever, but, it wouldn't surprise me if it happened at some point.
Yeah, his spirit guides are very clear on what is Ainslie's purview and what is not Ainslie's purview, so they really want to stay focused on that. But in conversations we've had, there's clearly a lot going on out there. There's a lot going on out there that is just not part of what Ainsley does in his day-to-day, but there's some cool stuff going on out there.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
That's what I just saw. I saw it was like this is what we're doing. Like this is my my deal, and all this is going on around here. But this is what I'm focused on.
Right.
It's like you wouldn't
go to
that's
his mission.
Yes.
That's his purpose.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
that's what's cool about it. And then there's other people out there talking about the other stuff and showing ways to do whatever it is that you're interested in doing. But when it comes to life purpose, why you're here, what your soul wants to achieve, and healing your past so you can really be present, that's where Ainsley comes in.
Yeah, the spirit guides they've really clamped down. It was when I first discovered I had the gift, I was finding missing objects and things, and it was great fun. And cleared out some ghosts in some place.
Yeah.
Incredible experience. And the guides were going, well, that's the last time you do that. This is not what you're here to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And in fact, I had to even beg them, oh, please, let me. This looks like so much fun. But no, they said, this is what you do. It's the life purpose, past lives, life purpose.
Yeah.
And so people will ask me about Atlantis. Spirit guides won't go.
They won't go there.
Won't
Yeah.
talk about it.
We get questions like that every month for the Q&A, and the spirit guides will 99.9% of the time, unless it's relevant to something that we're focusing on now, they'll just say not our purview.
Makes perfect
Distraction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so this is So your past lives, Ainslie, how have you done this before? Many times, many lives?
Yeah, and I've been persecuted for it as well. So, and it was one of the reasons that I was a reluctant psychic. And
I'm not
and
doing
in
that
fact,
again.
yeah, like, you know, I got in big trouble. And so what I was doing was trying to keep my head down low, you know, in case I got it knocked off. And so I help a lot of people with this. I get books in the mail every few months. Somebody will send me a book and say, well, this wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't done the work with you. And, you know, I had to do the same thing myself. I had to find past lives of judgment, loss, and self-expression, and all those sort of things. I mean, I was desperately shy when I was younger, and I couldn't speak in public. I just absolutely couldn't do it. I mean, I would have, you know, died. I thought I was going to die, and run out of so many rooms and everything. It turned out to be just a past life issue. And so when I first started doing this, the spirit guides were saying, okay, you're going to write a book, but if you're going to write a book, you need to be able to talk about it. And sat me down, and we looked at the past lives, and the fear disappeared. This is why I talk so much now, because I'm thinking it for a long time.
You know, he talks about this a lot, about how he used to have this terrible fear of public speaking, and because he's such an eloquent speaker now, it's like, oh, I don't know. But he tells stories. It's like, oh no, it was serious. Like, he could not. What was the story you tell about you left somewhere?
Well, there's so many of those stories. I wouldn't know which one it was. Oh no, dashing out of rooms, and I've come out in blotches, and my heart be racing.
Because your soul feels like you're about to die. You put your word out there, you speak out
where,
on this. And
where my soul was going, it's like you're being judged, just like you were judged by those people who tortured you and executed
and killed you. Yeah.
Right.
So stop talking.
The death-related fear. So and that's and the stutter. That's so often related to that. It's like a soul going, oh, don't say anything.
Yeah,
you never, you know, something bad will happen here.
But I'm so glad you went through that struggle so that you could then understand it and help people, because the very thing your soul is asking you to do, it's putting the brakes on at the same time.
Yeah,
and you actually feel kind of crazy thinking, I'm being pulled to do this, and it's my worst fear.
That's the problem. There's so many people, they have that push and pull. They know they should be doing it, but there's something holding them back. And so often when I tell somebody in a session, I'll be working with them and saying, you should be writing, or you should be dancing, or whatever it might be. And they go, oh, I know. And people keep telling me, you know, psychics keep telling me I should be a writer. And I'm going, well, you know, you should pay attention. But you'll find that they were persecuted in a previous lifetime, or spoke up and got into trouble. And once you clear that out, in fact, the blocks for most people when it comes to writing, their fears around persecution, judgment, self-expression, inferiority. You know, who am I to be doing this? What can I add to the conversation? And rejection. What if people don't like me? What if they don't like what I write?
So Ainslie is another bozo on the bus, and he wrote 2 amazing, life-changing books. Backwards, The Instruction and The Transformation. These are incredible books, people.
They really are. They really are. And they just make sense. And they're
go
easy to read.
Depth.
But you know, the very first time you and I spoke, you said, so do people know you? Are you famous? I was like, no. Well, you're going to be speaking, and you have a book. And it's like, no, I'm not. Yeah, well. Here we are.
And you had told me that I needed a bigger audience because I was doing my EFT work one-on-one, and you're like, no, your guides are telling me you're going to have a bigger audience. And so here we have the show.
And there you go.
Yeah.
And I'm not an educator like a teacher, like in a formal teaching, but it's more of a communicator. No, I'm a communicator.
And it's a performer.
Performer, that's what
influence.
it is. Yes.
You're a performer. Okay, so I have to ask one fun question.
And then we have a couple questions from our listeners.
But I want to ask this one. So you two, many lives together, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Yeah.
And fun ones? Or were they
hard? Yeah, actually.
Hard ones, too.
Yeah.
Some pretty brutal ones, actually. We went to Europe a couple of years ago, and the guides we were there for 5 weeks, and the guides had each place that we went to be a focus of a shared past lifetime. The first one was a pretty intense one. It was really brutal, and explained this weird thing I had about touching sandpaper or bricks. I mean, I could not. It was like when I would go to the beach and walk on the sand, literally in my mind I had to go, okay, one step at a time, you can do this, then we uncovered what this horrific past lifetime, and it all just went away. But the rest of the places we went to was all beautiful, lovely, romantic, exciting shared past lives, and we were basically reliving those and visiting. It was lovely.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
plus,
cool.
plus we found we had a ceramics company in St. Petersburg back in the 1800s.
Brothers,
And you found it, didn't you?
We found it, yeah. We did some...
we don't have it here, but he actually bought a little... For my birthday, he got me a little porcelain saucer and teacup that we made.
I love that.
Crazy. That's
There's
so
more
much
and
fun.
more of
is.
that in the news where people are validating the past lives. Now that we have research and satellite photos, you can actually go and find in genealogy charts. You can find who you were or evidence. And
Yep.
oh, it's so,
Yeah.
it's, I
The
love
guys
that.
didn't give the information. We through some clever sleuthing, we figured it out, and then they validated
They gave us
that.
the clues, you know, and what to look for, But, you know, I have clients now who will get back to me and say, I found myself on Wikipedia, you know, amazingly.
From back in the day,
sometimes very obscure past lives that they've had.
Hilarious. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. Do you have time for a question or two from
you wanna
our Joy Riders? Okay, Tova. Hi, Tova. How are you, sweetie? She is saying, are there some universal or regularly noticeable ways that an old soul's life today would differ from someone who's a young soul? And can someone among us be a new soul? And you go into depth in your book about all the characteristics of an old soul and a new soul, but maybe just for just as a little teaser, you can tell people that.
Sure. Well, if you're an old soul, you're going to be a little more accepting of others. You know, that's part of the problem for young souls. It's a bit fearful, so they tend to form strong communities where everybody thinks the same way. That's why we have mega churches and that sort of thing. The younger the soul, the more they want things in black and white. So one of the signs when you get to be an older soul is being just a little bit more accepting, or a lot more accepting, and being okay with nuances and shades of gray. I could go on. In fact, you know, I could
You
write a
can't.
book
You
about
do
it.
go on
Really,
in,
it
the
is in the
book
book.
because it's phenomenal. And a new soul, there are many people who are coming here as a new soul.
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting that there are. I don't ever talk to young souls. They don't call psychics.
They're not looking.
No, they're not. They're not on the path the same way. So that's actually one of the signs that you're an older soul. If you really are asking yourself the questions about, you know, who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? So that feeling that there has to be something bigger, something that will give your life meaning. It's a real sign of being an old soul.
I love that, and thank you for that. Margaret is asking about, what about somebody who was maybe born with a disability?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, everybody's got to have a soul. So if you're born with a disability, and that's something that the soul can see before it comes into this world, then your soul might say, well, I'd like to experience what this is like. Because the soul will make choices that we wouldn't consciously. I mean, if we were all consciously choosing lives, we'd all choose to be millionaires and have big homes and so on. You know, we wouldn't be consciously going, oh yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. But somebody has to. So what the soul does is quite pragmatic. And it says, you know, we want to learn some lessons this time around, what it might be to have to rely on other people, for example. Maybe you were very, very self-reliant in another life, so you say, well, let's see the other side of the coin, what that would be like. So there's all sorts of reasons. But everybody has to have a soul. Otherwise, you're a zombie. You just wouldn't function.
Literally.
And there'd be nothing going on.
Yeah, the other thing it's worth mentioning is that, not specific to that question, but when, you know, terrible things happen, we spent a whole month actually exploring that, and it was a really empowering exploration. The guys wanted to, it was a focus on getting out of a place of a victim mentality, because the reality is that bad things can and do happen on the physical plane that are unplanned for. It's just the way it works on this dimension.
And there's no punishment.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
right.
you don't end up in a wheelchair because you did
something bad. Yeah, right.
So it's funny, you just answered that. I was thinking that very question, and you answered
I know,
that.
I could tell.
He's psychic, so.
Well, she is too.
You are too.
And so,
She's psychic too.
so that is, you know, because Tiff and I often talk about that, and I'm just like, ooh, but these like sex trafficking people, these kids could not, those souls did not sign up to be abused
Right.
and beaten. And
Absolutely.
But do we? I mean, do we sign up for that experience?
Your soul doesn't actually sign up for experiences where you're going to end up being hurt. However, this gets into sort of very complicated territory, because I would give all sorts of examples to the spirit guides when I first started doing this work. I'd say, well, what if you're the fifth child to come into a family where all the other children have been abused by the father? Then you're going to stand a very high chance. But the way the spirit guides see it is, well, again, everyone's got to have a soul. So maybe that soul comes in with the intention of trying to prevent it happening. Maybe each of the souls has tried that. Maybe it doesn't happen, but you can't have they literally can't be. You can't function without a soul, and that's so important. So the souls will all be trying at all times to reach out to prevent abuse from happening or prevent bad things. Unfortunately, it's just part of being on the physical plane. I mean, it gets, like I say, it gets complicated, because this gets into whole other things about why each of us here is here to end things like abuse, to make a difference. One of the problems with getting to be an old soul is that sometimes you've just been around the block so often you can't be bothered. It's like, there's all this
fire.
There's these things I should be doing, and we should all be, you heal your own stuff. I mean, from past lives by helping people who suffer as you once did. So we should all be finding things, charities, organizations, where we can help others. I mean, it's really the responsibility of old souls to show the way. It's like being the parent and showing the younger souls, this is how you should be.
This is how we do it. And you actually do say that. You say however you can give back, it does feed a part of that, and it does help heal, whether it's through abused kids or animals or gun, whatever, that is a way to help heal. And I love that. I wouldn't have thought that, but you're right. It's that compassion and that empathy for both sides. I mean, that's
it also
the hard
contributes
part.
to the collective consciousness too, and that's a big part of why we're doing what we're doing too. So
Well, do you have time for one more little question? Or is there anything you'd like to talk about? We have about 3 minutes left.
I would like to hear
more. There's so many more questions.
Wait.
Throw a question. Go on. I'll talk quickly.
Okay, so Jason took the quiz, and he is a spiritualist, no surprise, but can be a combination of soul types. So he's had two results separated by 1 point. So pretty equal there.
Yeah, you can. They can float around a little bit sometimes. You might have the leader in you, and you have the performer. So there are times when you're leading, and that leader will come up to the surface. Other times when you're doing a radio show, and the performer comes up because you need to communicate.
Yep.
So,
Right. Well, thank you for that.
Float around.
And Margaret she says crying. I hope those are happy tears. I hope that's some validation and some insight into your situation.
Yeah.
I know you're a very brave,
but
strong soul. Well, gosh, I hate to say
he
goodbye.
was going to say one more thing.
Oh, please.
Right.
Oh, you want me to say one more thing?
I thought you said you wanted to say one thing.
Oh, I just wanted to take another question, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to throw a question at me, or do you want me just to...
One more.
We would love to.
Go on.
Oh, this is Emma, and Emma is also a psychic. She's our beautiful Belgian medium, and she's saying that they choose experiences and lessons how you come in and into your reality, and it can be created by free will, or it can be pre-planned. So I guess, I don't know if there's a question in there, but just saying some of it's free will and some of it is pre-planned.
Well, I'm actually just coming to the end of writing my next book. So, and I hope I can come on your show and talk about that.
Yes, please.
But I actually have a whole chapter on that. It's really between what's free will and what's predetermined.
So there's some wiggle room.
Versus free will thing. Yeah, because, there is a plan, but you also have free will. And what do you do with that? So
I always see them as like big road signs. I know we have, and I know you have to jump off, and you have something else going on right
Ainsley
after
and Christine,
this.
thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Everybody for joining us on YouTube
an absolute
and
pleasure.
Facebook. And thank you, everybody. Go to joyrideshow.com. We'll put the links to everything so that you can check out how to get in touch with Ainsley and Christine.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.